Hello and welcome to the Sideline Live podcast. My name is Orla Keeling and I am the host of the podcast, where every week we bring you a brand new episode with guests ranging from Olympic champions to local heroes, coaches, support staff and anybody involved in the world of sport. Each week we will dive into different topics, including current affairs in sport, identity, skill, mindset, coaching, and also shine a light on those flying under the radar. So tune in for brand new episodes, new stories, and new insights you've never heard before. This episode is proudly sponsored by Sport Expo Ireland. Taking place at the Sport Ireland campus on April 21st and 22nd, 2027, attendees will hear from leading voices in sport, take part in interactive workshops and masterclasses. To learn more and register your interest, visit sportexpo.ie, which is linked in the description of the episode. Now, let's hear from today's guest. Okay, delighted to be joined by Mr. Eamonn Fennell. I think one of the busiest men in Dublin at the moment. Eamon, thank you for joining me.
Delighted to be on, Orla, and thanks for reaching out. It's great to be on the sideline.
Give us your elevator pitch, because I don't know. There's so many titles I could introduce you as. So I'm giving you the chance now to introduce yourself to the audience.
I watched the Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce podcast, and Jason Kelce does this amazing intro. So I was waiting for you to do that for me, but I have to do it for you, do I? All right. I don't know where to start. I've played with Dublin, lucky enough to win an All-Ireland. Played with Vincent's, lucky enough to win an All-Ireland. I know we're going to get into it, but I was expelled from school. Went back later in life to do an MSc, an MBA. I owned a bar with Michael Darren McCauley, Ross McConnell. I own a coffee shop with Nathan Mullins and his late great father, Brian Mullins. 3 young kids, a wife who's very understanding, and I'm back coaching the senior football team, and I've made a career change into tech now with Salesforce. So that's my synopsis.
You don't do anything by half, Eamon, is the moral of that story.
I like chaos and I like change. I always find I learn when I'm throwing myself into something new and something different. So it's great to have them opportunities to be able to challenge myself a bit more.
I get the sense you're still training at quite a high level yourself. Is it triathlons or marathons, or what are you doing these days?
It's a bit of both. So I have triathlons. I've trained with J.R. Redmond on that, and then I'm doing ultras now. So I have an ultra trail run in September that I'm not prepared for. So I need to start training a bit harder for that. But yeah, after stepping away from football, I found myself wanting to do something. And if I'm being honest, it took a while to try and get into running, and my body just kept breaking down. But then got a good coach in Jer, got a great strength and conditioning coach in Martina McCarthy, and then everything kind of clicked into pace from there on in. But then you kind of do the road stuff. You want to go to trails, then you do the trails. You want to go to triathlon. So it's great to have all them the 3 disciplines that you can weave in and out of as well. So you're never just bored doing the one thing.
Martina is also on my list to interview, so if she's listening, I'll be on to you, Martina.
She's amazing. Please get her on. She's so much better than me. You need her.
You can give me the inside info before we record. We're obviously going to get into a lot of the things that kind of when I sent over questions list and what you've spoken about before, Eamon, and you mentioned there with all the stuff you're doing. But I'm interested with your career on and off the pitch. Is there a question or a topic that no one asks you about that is away from the kind of the obvious storylines?
Well, what a question. I don't think people ask me enough about my family, and they've been a big part of everything that I've been able to achieve in my life and in my career. And we're very close. I have 4 brothers. My mom and dad are amazing. My dad is from Waterford, grew up in rural Waterford, and my mom is from Scotland. So they've definitely helped shape my upbringing. But having three older brothers and one younger brother's like a large part of everything that I've ever done has involved them. Like my eldest brother was my coach all the way up in GAA. My mum was involved in the juvenile committee in O'Toole's, and she was involved in like getting us to matches for not only me but for my other brothers as well. And then my younger brother, I used to play football with him and all of our friends quite a bit. And then when I got on to the Dublin panel, like they were just so supportive. Like honestly, whatever I needed, like the my dad got me a car. My brothers were helping me train on the sides, like putting gym equipment out the back, and just like I think sometimes that piece gets overlooked, and I can't emphasize enough how critical my family have been to me in everything between GA, college, my career, supporting everything, like all the stuff that I've done in terms of like setting up a women's shoe online business, flat shoes. My mom supported that where she could have just said, "What are you doing?" Like, like so. There's been chaos at times, but my family have always been there for me and have helped largely shape everything I do.
Mm. Were they a football family, or did they turn into a football family because of yourselves and growing up in it? No tools.
Yeah, like the looking back, like all we did was play football. So like I had, as I said, three older brothers. It was just a case like five boys in a house. All my mom ever could do was just like, "There's a football, get out of the house," like So and everyone I kind of grew up with back then, all we did was just like go to the green, play football. So football was a large part of everything we did. Like I was a United supporter. All my brothers were United supporters until my little brother moved to Blackburn and then to Newcastle and became an Alan Shearer fan. But there was always a bit of banter in the house. And just with my dad being from Waterford, we always had an interest in the hurling. My eldest brother was born in Waterford. He was my coach all the way up. So yeah, like football definitely was a large part of our lives, and all my brothers would have played at some stage as well.
When did football become something that you really studied, and it wasn't just something that you were out, with your mates, and you kind of maybe was the point that you realised you had a bit of potential and maybe got onto Dublin squads?
If I had to pick a point, I would have said when myself and my best friend, who was best man at my wedding, and he's actually over in London playing with the Dublin Masters this weekend, is Dave Mooney. Me and him were called up to the Dublin minor team for the championship squad. Basically, we were just there to kind of make up numbers. It wasn't really trials as such, but we had O'Toole's. We won the Division One league. We had a really good team, and we were called up. So we knew we were good enough to be around the Dublin setup. But I remember we were there for about 3 or 4 weeks, and they were giving around nutritional information for match day. It's just like an A4 page of what to eat and what to drink. And they wouldn't give us the page because we weren't part of the squad. I just went, "Oh my God, this is like so, like, just give it's a piece of paper, right?" But Mooney dropped off, and I kind of said, "Oh no, that's probably what I needed. I needed that kick in the ass to go, like, oh, they don't even consider you. Like, you're just here to make up numbers. Now it's time to kick on and challenge them." And that was a real kind of moment in my life where I just went, right, now it's time to kind of get serious with this. I'm nearly there. I know I'm there. I have enough people doubting me that I can use that as motivation to kick on. And that was probably where I pushed on a bit. We ended up winning we ended up going into an under 21 B championship. We won that B championship. And I think that's where I kind of kicked on from.
Was football number one then for you as a teenager? Was it kind of maybe above other things as well?
100%. Like my schoolwork suffered massively, and like most kids, right? I was involved in everything. Between my mom was amazing. Like I need to emphasize this. My mom really pushed us into multiple sports between swimming, um, tennis, hurling, football, basketball. Like we were doing camps all summer long. So like you kind of have to, you know, prioritize sport in a way. And like when I was about 17 is when I said, right, Gaelic football and hurling is where I really need to kind of hang my hat on, but to nearly the detriment of school and everything else as well.
Yeah, I think when I heard you on Off the Ball there, I think maybe it was 2 years ago, the piece around school and getting expelled. I think that's a really key thing for I've quite a younger people listening and parents and stuff like that, and a lot of the athletes that I get on, or other people, it's about you can you're not don't just be defined by what has happened or just defined by sport or just defined by school, but there's a huge lesson there. Like, you got expelled at 17 and then you went on, you've done a master's in MBA. Like, if I had told 17-year-old Eamon that you would do that, like, he probably would have told me to f off.
Well, I wasn't studious in the slightest, but yeah, like a large part of that is around the environment. So, like, I went to Schnell College in Coolock, which was like a hard place to thrive. Like, when my brother, who was older than me, got stabbed in the ass, it's actually like he got stabbed in school. It's not as severe as what I'm saying, but he did get stabbed. And then one of my mates was in a really bad situation as well. And people were dropping out of school at 13. Like, there's people getting locked up. It wasn't really an environment that you could set yourself up for success. And there's always good people within that situation. And I was very fortunate to have amazing people around me. But you kind of fall into, well, I did. I fell into kind of both camps a bit, and definitely didn't do what I needed to do when I was in school in order to set myself up for success in a career. Yeah, I probably wasn't mature enough. Definitely had distractions going on, and definitely things that kind of, you know, I did that I have to take onus on, that kind of affected everything. And then when I got expelled, that disappointment in terms of how my mom and dad must have felt was horrible. Like, I remember just thinking, I've let everyone down here. Shame was probably the overarching emotion that I felt, and I kind of held on to that for years afterwards. If I'm being honest, it wasn't until I finished the MBA and got Student of the Year that I actually felt, right, now I can talk about that, because it was holding me back for so long. And to overcome that emotional obstacle that I had was huge.
Even when you were speaking about, you went back and you were going to sit the leaving cert maybe 2 years later, and then went back again 2 years after that and actually sat it. I think it was in the institute. Even the piece around that, was it more maybe a little bit beyond your teenage years? Was it were you a difficult teenager, or was it just a lack of maybe direction and kind of channel to put that energy into education?
Yeah, like it's a really good question. And if I had to unpack it, I'd say it's a bit of both, right? I wasn't the easiest teenager, but I had like an amazing mother who did everything to make us successful and did everything to keep us away from trouble. Like, she sacrificed so much. I don't think I appreciate that fully until later in life. So, not that I was a maliciously bad teenager. I was just like messing and having the crack probably a bit too much. And then there was definitely a lack of direction, because like all I was ever told was, "Oh, you go get a trade." My brother, who's older than me, is an electrician. My other brother was a mechanic, and my eldest brother, he actually went to college in Scotland to teach. But all I was kept told, "Go, you're going to be a tradesperson. Just get into a trade." And I knew I didn't want to do that. So when I went back to the institute to study, and that was just to get a leaving cert. So I was delighted that I got that. And then I went back about 2 years later to sit honors chemistry and biology. And the reason for that was DCU had a course where it was PE and a science subject, and I never had a science subject. So I had to go back and do two science subjects in order to qualify for that course. And that's the course that Paul Flynn did, Clucko, Michael Murphy. Like, it was purely not mine. It was just plucking GA players from everywhere. But that's kind of what I taught, and I did that, got the results that I wanted. And then I started in DCU for 3 months in September, October, November. And then I just went, this isn't for me. The GA season was kicking back in. I just thought, look, I made a mistake here. This isn't what I thought it was going to be. So I needed to pivot again.
Was football, did football give you that direction and that kind of structure and security to allow you then to look at the careers piece with Fran O'Reilly and going back to college and figuring that out?
Yeah, like I remember going into the Dublin dressing room in 2005 when I got called up from the Dublin 21s to the seniors. And I'd say that was the first time I was exposed to an environment where people were really successful in their careers. People had their own businesses, they were in banking, they were school teachers. There was a lot of people who were like very career driven and knew where they wanted to get to. And I wasn't like that. So I think that was the first time I was really exposed to that kind of environment. And that just opens your thinking a bit more to say, oh, well, like now I have an opportunity here to try and do something else. But still, like if I'm being honest, I took a handy job working for Dublin GEA and the GEA as a games promotion officer for a few years because it made it easy and conducive to having the football career with Dublin and a bit of balance in terms of work there. Um, but it wasn't until I suppose we won the All Ireland when you kind of go, okay, I've done what I wanted to do. Now what's next? And what's next was always around my career in education.
Mm. Andy Moran, when I spoke with him a couple of years ago, we spoke about reaching your potential in sport, and I was asking about, do you need to be all in on your sport? And he said his point was, and other people have disagreed with him, but his point was maybe for kind of maybe 2 to 3 years around the kind of early 20s stage when you're typically your players are in college, that's when football needs to be number one to reach your pinnacle. Would you agree with that, when football was number one and you were taking kind of different jobs to kind of fit around football?
I probably have a bit of a different thought process on that. I enjoyed myself. Like I enjoyed the hard training. I enjoyed being like around the lads. I loved the morning sessions. I genuinely loved being around Dublin. But I also loved the crack outside of Dublin and like going to Coppers after matches and meeting up with the lads for a few points. Everything was just so enjoyable. And I probably didn't achieve as much in my career because I wasn't as disciplined as other players were. And it took me a while to find that. And it wasn't until we reached the All Ireland that you go, okay, like we're onto something here. Like I have to really knuckle down and do a bit more. So I kind of find with people, the ones who are super disciplined, super good, and have achieved so many amazing things in their career, a lot of them would look back and say, I wish I enjoyed it a bit more as well. I probably enjoyed it a bit too much though. So like, there's a bit of a balance there. And I do think there's a point where you have to make football the be all and everything. But again, I still think you need to enjoy yourself as well because like you have to look back and say, well, yeah, that was something I'm proud of, but also it's something I really enjoyed and I didn't leave anything behind as well.
You touched on it there briefly, but do you think if Dublin hadn't won in 2011 and hadn't made a final, do you think your life would have maybe unfolded differently off the pitch and on the pitch?
My life was exponentially better after winning an All Ireland. I don't know how much it would have changed if I didn't win it. I've definitely reaped the rewards of having an All Ireland, right? But I remember speaking with Pat Gilroy, and he said prior to us winning the All Ireland, he said to myself, Bernard Ross, I think James Brogan, he called us into his house. There's a few of us, and just said like, stop all the stuff that you're doing off the pitch. Just focus on this. If we do this, you'll have Eamon Fennell, All Ireland winner after your name, Bernard Brogan, All Ireland winner after your name, and no one can take that away from you. And we kind of all went, yeah, well, okay, let's do this. So like that was massive for me. But then there's opportunities that come when you win the All Ireland, and I grasped as many opportunities. I went into radio presenting with Phantom FM, which led me down a career with Communicore and then FM 104. I set up my own business, as I said, online women's shoes. I was DJing, I was running events, I was selling whiskey. I was doing everything, like because I didn't have that direction, but I knew there was opportunities after winning the All Ireland. So I definitely capitalised on that, but I dread to think what would have happened if we didn't win.
Was it? It was the catalyst to kind of realise. I think I remember saying in early 2012 you met Fran O'Reilly and you kind of looked beyond football because you had reached that pinnacle.
Yeah, like after the All Ireland myself, I quit my job, and I was like, because I was doing various different other things, right? I was myself and Michael Darmacaulay were hired by Dublin GA to go around to schools, which was like Groundhog Day. You go to 8 or 10 schools a day, you hear Molly Malone, you see Clucko kicking the point, and it was so incredible to do. And you're riding the crest of that wave of the All Ireland, and everyone you meet is telling you about where they were on the day. It was so cool. It was such an amazing thing to do, but it has a lifespan as well, right? Because the season starts back in January, and we're like, I can't keep doing this, so we had to pull the plug on it. And then I was like, what am I going to do now? Like, genuine, I can't just move into the next season with not having something else. And I met Fran January 12th, 2012, in the Crown Plaza in Blanche. And Fran was with the Gaelic Players Association. He just kind of started me on my journey about life away from football and what I needed to prioritize and what I needed to kind of do to find something I was passionate about away from football.
How did you do that? Like, what does that actually take?
It takes time is what it takes, because like there's no silver bullet answer where you kind of go one session, oh, this is it now, I'm going to be whatever. It takes a lot of unpacking in terms of just getting into the core of what makes you happy, getting into the core of who you want to be working with or who you want around you, like getting into your emotions a bit about, like, for me it was school. Like, I always felt that that would be in the back of my mind if I never addressed it. So I had to do something about it. So going and getting my uh, leaving cert was great, but then what else could I do in that area? And it took about 2 or 3 years for me to kind of work through all that with Fran. And in the meantime, I was trying different things, but it's time. It just like it's a commitment from his end and it's a commitment from my end to go on that journey. But I'm so thankful that I had Fran to go on that journey with.
Hmm. The piece around going back to college was, are you more nervous walking into Smurfit trying to start a master's or going into Croke Park with 82,000 people?
Well, um, definitely the masters. So I applied to do an MSc in business management and leadership, and the academic board rejected my application. So I had to appeal to the academic board to say, look, I know I don't have a degree, but I promise you that I'm going to throw everything I can at this because I know it's what I want to do, right? Like at that time, I think people were just doing it as a kind of tick the box, where I knew it would really mean something to me. And I had the support from, like, Brian Mullins, who did so much for me in my career. To kind of, he was working as the head of sports within DCU, and one or two other people helped get me in the door. But I remember my first day at the MSc, and my wife had done it 3 years before I had. So she had gone through it, and she's way more academic than I am. She had a degree in DCU. She went back and did the MSc. So she kind of told me what I was walking into, but I still didn't fully understand what I was getting myself into until I had that first lecture and I could see people's titles as CEO, managing director, CFO, people who had their own businesses, people who had like a ton more experience in their career than I had. I was the youngest in the class, and I just went, "Oh my God, this is going to be a journey. This is going to be way more challenging than I thought it was going to be."
He reminded me of when I was in sixth year. A good pal of mine, she got the levels mixed up in terms of level 8, level 9, and she told us she had decided she was going to do linguistics. Turns out it was a master's, so she was going to skip the 4 years of the undergrad, go straight into a master's, which is what you did. But that was a genuine mistake. We still slag her about it to this day, just as a bit of a joke. But I actually heard Stephen Behan, who's
Yeah,
I think he's a assistant professor.
PhD in I know he's doing stuff with the kids in terms of the sports science area.
Yeah, yeah, in DCU. Yeah, I forget his actual title, Stephen, if you're listening, sorry. But he did the same. He was a carpenter by trade, and then went into DCU, knocked on Dr. Noel McCaffrey's door and managed to open a door. So I'm just interested, like, not doing a level 8, walking into a level 9 with all these people around you, CEOs and people that you said that when you're that are a lot older than you maybe, and you're coming into younger age. How did you actually find in like explaining? Did you explain your educational route to them, or did you just kind of let? I'm just
Yeah,
genuinely
yeah,
interested
no.
in that piece of managing that as well going in.
Yeah, that's why they rejected it, right? So like I hadn't got that experience, and they just thought I would sink in that environment, which largely was true, right? But I remember Paul Flynn went back. Paul was working as a plumber, and Paul went back to do the PE and biology course at DCU. And no, sorry, Niall Minor was trying to get me in, and I asked him how's Flinner's doing, and he just said like Flinner is a smart guy, but not the most studious. Again, he didn't have a degree. He went straight from school to a trade, and he just said Flinner is outworking everyone. So Flinner will succeed because he's going to work harder than everyone else to make sure that he is fully prepared when he goes to class. And he did. And like Flinner was unbelievably studious by the end of it and got like amazing grades and is obviously gone on to do amazing things in his own career. That kind of resonated with me is like, right, where are my strong points here? And I think sport gives you so much in terms of discipline. It gives you so much in terms of like being challenged quite a lot and dealing with them challenges. But it also kind of yeah, you understand that work rate is going to be fundamentally the most important thing here. So I just have to work harder. And that's kind of what I took going into that environment was that I don't have the same experience, don't have the same background. That's okay. But I have an ability to be able to kind of roll with the punches and work harder than everyone in this room. And I think you have to have that mindset going into that situation.
Was that I spot on your LinkedIn you shared a kind of an anecdote in the piece around going to do the masters. A friend gave me some advice about starting new challenges. Take the jump. You will get your wings when you're falling because the free fall doesn't last forever.
Yeah, and like I love that because I like taking risks. Like I'm a more suck it and see where my wife is project management, so she's very much more process driven. And she will go into something fully prepared and know what she's going into, where I'm just kind of like, well, like let's open a bar. I don't know how to run a bar. Let's open a coffee shop. Don't know how to run it. But like you kind of learn as you go in these things. And I think these different experiences give you a better understanding about what's important to you and then how you can kind of use your own skill set to the environment that you're in at the time. And that bit of advice is something that I kind of keep in the back of my mind is like you don't have to have all the answers. And I think people get fixated with trying to understand everything or trying to have all the answers where sometimes you just have to make the decision and you'll learn as you go and a bit of imposter syndrome, right? But that's part of the fun as well.
When you went and did the masters, you then did the MBA. I'm just interested. You mentioned the importance of environment earlier on. Beyond the books and beyond the lectures, what did you learn from the people within those environments about career and I suppose even life?
It's probably the best thing. So like when I look back on my time in UCD, and UCD were so good to me. So I did my MSc, got my 1-1, so got the grade that I wanted. But I had three different classes, like three different diplomas as part of that I worked with. And I had so many amazing people that like went on that journey with me as well. Learned so much about them. You get exposed to different industries that you like. I worked heavily within FMCG, and like learning a bit more around tech, learning a bit more about financial institutes, learning a bit more about like some people were working for hospitals and what they were dealing, working for non-for-profits as well, was it just opens your mind and challenges your thinking a bit more. And like one of the things that I do with everything, be it opening the bar in Camden Street, opening Brewbox, the coffee shop in Donamead, going into the Masters, going into the NBA, I build a team of people around me who can help me and set me up for success. That's probably one of the things that I'm really good at is getting the right people around me. Now, I think it's really important that you can't take from people constantly. You have to, like, if people are willing to help you on the journey, you have to be able to do something to offer something back to them or offer something back to someone else. So, like, that's a large part of what I try to do is like build my team, but understand, like, for a large part of this relationship, there's going to be a certain amount of stuff that I need to take from them to build me up from success, even if it's just about sitting down for a coffee and me bouncing ideas off them. They're investing their time and energy in me. So like I have to do something to give back to them. And that's something I'm always mindful of is like pay it forward. Can't be just take. The team is critical, but then what you do with that team is really important.
I know I was kind of joking saying, you're the busiest man in Dublin, but if an actual genuine interest is how do you actually balance all of the spinning plates? I'm probably similar enough to you with my personality and my mindset. I kind of need to have a couple of things going on. I can't kind of be all in on one thing. Some psychologist is listening is like diagnose me with something there, but I just, genuinely from a time perspective, like how do you do it? I've heard of calendar training or calendar timing where they, slot things in and book everything. How do you actually balance it?
It's a constant challenge first and foremost, and like to really get it into the core of that. Like my dad was a farmer who left the family farm at 15 to go to London to work. When we were growing up, he was working 15-hour days to provide for us and was really successful in what he did. I'm so lucky that he did it. And you kind of learn from his work ethic. My mom, the sacrifices she made around making sure we were okay. Like Pat Gilroy took the Dublin job at 36. I think that's crazy. Like people forget he was 36 as the Dublin manager. Like I'll be 42 in a few days, and I can't think of that. Pat had four kids. He had his own business. He was manager at Dublin. He had so much going on, and you kind of look at that and go, "Wow, that's so impressive." And same with Mickey Whelan. Like Mickey Whelan went back to do a PhD at 60. So like I think people make excuses for why not to do stuff, but like I've never had my bandwidth stretch and break. Do you know what I mean? Like it's been challenged at times the amount of stuff I've taken on between uh, my own life, married to an amazing woman, Fiona, having kids, opening a bar on Camden Street, just going back to college while playing football, um, opening a coffee shop. You kind of, I took on a lot, but it's not about, I don't think you ever get it to balance. I just think you're constantly juggling. And I've never had my bandwidth break. Do you know what I mean? Like it's always can be times where it's really tough, right? But like never to the extent where I've lost relationships with people, never to the extent where I've been burned out. But like I kind of like the chaos. And someone said to me once, which is I always keep this in the back of my mind. Cormac Whelan's his name. He's like a business mentor to me and a great friend, but he's really busy as well. He's so successful and has so many things going on. And he said it's never about balance, it's always about juggling. You're always juggling your priorities. But no matter what you're juggling, there's always a glass ball. And you have to keep your eye on that glass ball. And he said, like, what is your glass ball? And to me, it's my family, it's Fiona and the kids. So like if that ball smashes, then everything else goes to shit. So just never take your eye off that, regardless of everything else that you have in the air. That's the priority. That's the kind of way I try and approach things as well.
Have you ever read the book The Range? Never
No,
heard of it.
I
Um,
heard of
I,
it, but I've never read it.
yeah, I was trying to get into audiobooks and I bought that and I think I maybe lasted two chapters. I just can't deal with audiobooks. But I have tried to read it as well. But the whole concept is around the more experiences you have and the different things you do, the better it is for you, whether it's business, sport, or athletes, whatever. There's loads of examples in it. I'm just interested, while maybe some people, and I know we'll get into it maybe a little bit later on, might see all the things that you did as maybe a negative and too much juggling and too much stretching, there must be a benefit to having the wide range of experiences that you have had. I'm just interested, is there a particular takeaway you've taken from just doing so many different things across so many different spaces?
There is, right? Like take football for instance. Like I played with Dublin for 8 years. If I lived to 80, that's 10% of my life was football. I know people who talk about their time playing not for Dublin, but for the county teams that they played for into their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. And it's amazing. And like people should have fond memories of that. But like there has to be more than just that part of my life. There has to be more that I'm willing to do. I'm willing to challenge myself to do a bit more because I can't live on 2011, right? So I think opening myself up to new experiences just keeps me energetic. And that kind of sounds counterintuitive in a way because I think it would drain you. But I sincerely mean this. If you have the right people around you and you're doing stuff you like, you just have a natural grow and a natural energy towards it. You're right, you do learn a bit more from them, but I don't do stuff that negatively impacts my energy, that negatively impacts my relationships with people. I do stuff that I want to do with people I want to do it with. And like that opens a whole different world of thinking when you get into learning from, like with the bar, for instance. Like myself, Ross, and Mick are three completely different people, but then you're learning about them and what they want to do with the bar. You're learning about how they operate. Same with Nathan and the coffee shop. And I just have great people around me that I'm learning constantly from. So yeah, I think it's just it's new experiences, but so cool to do with other people as well.
I think the kind of the overarching maybe trait that we're seeing in you is just ambition. Obviously the work ethic piece, but just that ambition. Like, is it something you're born with? Is it something that you learned? Is it something that you unlocked in yourself?
I think it's probably something that came to the fore later in life, if I'm being honest. And I used to be fueled by negativity. So like when I left O'Toole's to join Vincent's, there was like so many people who said stuff about me and said stuff about my family. And that's exactly what I needed at that moment in time to kind of push on and achieve something from a football perspective. And then I remember when I was opening the bar, like people were saying to me, "What are you doing? You haven't a clue what you're doing. Just like you're going to do it part time. You're going to make a balls of it, like all this kind of stuff." Again, that's what you need. I needed that at the time, but there comes a point in your life where you can't just be fueled by negativity. There has to be more to it because in that scenario, you're constantly chasing negative people, and that can be draining in itself. So what I've kind of tried to do later in my life is like, well, what do I want to do? Okay, I want to do a triathlon. Who do I need to have around me? I need to have a good triathlon coach. I need to have a good strength and conditioning coach. I need to have a good core group of mates that if I throw a message out who wants to go for a run at 5 in the morning, that they're going to be there. They're not going to piss them on about being out at 5 o'clock in the morning in the winter running. And that's kind of what I do now. I've changed my tactic of always looking for the negativity to drive the ambition, but now looking on like what do I want to do that's going to give me a renewed energy.
I think that's the other piece we haven't even touched on yet. While we were talking about the football and the and career with Dublin, and then the piece about your career, there was also this part of your life that was going on. Was it 2010 when this all kicked off? You were transferring from O'Toole to Vincent's. Just for the listeners who don't know about that story, just give us a quick kind of run through.
It was around 2008, so and like it actually. goes back further than that. So like I was brought onto the Dublin team in 2005, the senior team, and I was playing for O'Toole's at the time, and O'Toole's were always so good to me and great club. But it wasn't until I got exposed to to that environment that I was like, oh, there's 40 lads at training, there's footballs, there's drills, it's not just six people playing backs and forwards. Like when you're at that near professional level and you see the setup, you see everything, you're kind of like, oh my God, this is so much more enjoyable than going down to training with six lads, running laps around the pitch, kicking a few footballs, playing backs and forwards, and then going home. And for a large part of my time with O'Toole's playing senior football, that was the situation. So struggling to get 15 players for matches some days, and hurlers always getting priority, which they were more successful. So you understand that. But it just became a constant struggle to try and get people to train and people to matches. Like one year, I had five different managers on the senior football team. I just, this is not enjoyable. And being around the Dublin setup, I just went, I know what's happening with different clubs. I can see where they're going. And if I'm not enjoying it, what's the point, you know? So I put a transfer request in 2008 to leave, and then I was told that I couldn't play for Dublin and not have a club. So I was working with O'Toole to say, look, can we just try something to get the senior footballers back up and running? And we did. In fairness to the club, they did try. They were talking to the players. We were trying to get more players in. It just wasn't working. Like we still were going to matches with 13 players, and the enjoyment was gone for me. And at that point, I was just like, okay, I need to make a decision. Pat Gilroy became the Dublin manager in 2009. I said it to him. I said, look, I really want to leave O'Toole's, want to go to Vincent's, but the county board are going to push back. So at that time, if you set out a football for a year, you could then transfer to a club. I didn't play in 2009 for club or county, and I was like 11 months into my time, and then they changed the ruling to say that it didn't matter if you stayed a year, like you could move to a different county or have an address in a different county and move back. There's all these loopholes, but effectively they closed all the loopholes. So then I basically missed 2 years of club football, a year of inter-county, and then going into the 2010 season, Pat just said, "Look, I'm going to play you, but you're going to have to perform." So I had a really good O'Byrne Cup, played well in the National League, and then, long story short, it was getting to a stage where the O'Toole's and the county board were coming to Dublin train and saying I shouldn't be there, and they were trying to take me away from training. And Pat just said, "No, he's playing. That's it." So we kind of went to the court, won in the court, but lost the ruling. And then it was going to the European courts because you had the Bosman ruling in soccer, so precedent had been set, and then we were going to the European courts, and that's when they kind of said, "Okay, let's just give him the transfer." So it became a whole hullabaloo, and it definitely impacted me in ways that I probably didn't understand at the time, but fundamentally, all I wanted to do was play football and enjoy my football. And I was lucky enough that I went to a club where I've been able to kind of do that. And I just want to say I have unbelievably fond memories of my time in O'Toole's. It just wasn't what I wanted from football.
What did you do in 2009? Because you certainly hit the ground running in 2010. Like, why I said 2010, I was actually watching an interview you did. You won February Player of the Month in 2010, I think in the league. You know, what did you do?
2009 was a really tough year because myself, Bernard, Ross McConnell, and Clucko were living in a house in Ongar. So I was around them all the time. So like they were getting ready for matches, they were getting ready for games, and I wasn't part of it. And that just like I was probably a negative influence looking back because I just was like, what's the point here? Like, what am I doing if I can't play? Like, and it probably it affected me probably more than I thought at the time. That I just like I was like, I'm not enjoying this situation at all. Like I'm going to train and knowing I'm not going to be involved in games, not playing club football. I end up going back playing soccer with Colester with my mates that I grew up with. Um, but I just had such a bad year in 2009 that I wasn't enjoying football at all. And then 2010, it was just like, can't continue to do this. So Pat just said, you have to have an unbelievable start to try and get the fans on your side, to try and get the county boards to understand the impact you could have on the team. And my first game in 2010, I wasn't given a number, I wasn't named in a program. I think I had to wear number 35. I ran on the pitch and I had a really good game. Next day, next game, same thing. And then February, as you said, we played Derry at home and I scored 2 points. And I had another good game against Cork away. I was lucky enough to get player of the month that month, but I needed to do that to kind of validate Pat's decision and backing me to play.
Because Pat wasn't exactly light on you either. Was it the first game before he said, you have to perform? Like, you've no choice here.
Oh, you're gone, yeah. Like Pat, see, like I think as a player, you just want a manager to be honest with you, and Pat's brutally honest, right? Pat's like nearly to the extent where you're going, that's probably a bit too much. But at least you know where you stand. And like I've always been grateful for Pat to be that honest and open with me. So definitely challenging, right? But you kind of want that as well. Like it's good to be challenged at times in your life and see how you react to it. And thankfully, I kind of reacted the right way.
The there hasn't been the exact same replicas of that, and I don't want to compare, but I'm just interested as someone who has been through and I actually didn't realize it was going to go to the European courts, so that shows the extent of where it was going. But I'm just thinking of Shane Walsh in 22 or in 23, kind of that summer, and going into 23 season. Shawnee Johnston. I'm just interested as someone who has been in similar scenario. Did that your experience? Did you just look at those two lads? Just I'm just using an example. Does that just change your perspective of what they're going through?
Yeah, like being honest, not really too like I didn't whatever about Shawnee, and I knew Shawnee went to like play with Kildare and was moving house and all that kind of stuff. So he obviously was going through a lot at that time and had to deal with a lot. Um, but what really kind of did it for me was the kids. So like when I was getting blocked my transfer, there was a 14-year-old kid who was trying to transfer clubs. And I remember sitting while we were waiting for the hearing, and the man was in tears because she was like, he wants to play with his friends. I won't name clubs or kids now, but like the club wouldn't let him leave and go to play with all his friends that he was in school with at 14. Like, I was like, what? Like, what are we doing here? Like, your kid was then saying he's not going to play GAA anymore. And I get it. You don't want to have a massive influx of players leaving, going to bigger clubs. But I don't think that's ever going to happen because of just the people in clubs, the history and heritage. But from a kid's point of view, I'm just like that. Just I can't get behind that at all. From an elite level, in terms of senior football teams, I wasn't enjoying it. Like so, what am I to do in a scenario where I'm not enjoying my football? It's like I want more from the game, but I know I'm not going to get it if I keep doing what I'm doing. So something had to change, and thankfully it did because like winning a club All Ireland and a county All Ireland was always top of the list. So to be able to achieve that's amazing. So like I think you have to look at every situation in isolation and just make a ruling on it. I don't think you can have a mass one, but sometimes common sense just has to prevail. And I think at times we just get that wrong.
You've mentioned Mickey and Pat a lot in this. Just interested in kind of the lessons or influences that stayed with you, even beyond football, just from what they've instilled in you.
To be honest, it's work rate. Like, remember, as I said, Pat 36 taking a Dublin job with four young kids, his own business. Like, he had every excuse to make him on why he shouldn't be there. And if things had gone wrong, he had loads of excuses he could use. He never did. He just like he rolls up his sleeves and does it. And like as I said, that kind of ethos was something that my dad instilled in me and my mom instilled in me as well. So, like, it's hard work is gonna overcome nearly everything. You just have to be able to work harder and don't make excuses. So, the big lessons like that I got from them was just about like you need to put in the work and you need to want to put in the work. And I think if you do that, you will be successful. And looking at Mickey, like Mickey in his career and everything that he's achieved, he's overcome so much. And Pat going back to manage the Dublin Hurlers, going back in as a selector with well, not even a selector, but going in with Desi in the backroom team. He's now a selector with me in the St Vincent senior football team. So like I just love being around people like Pat, like Mickey, who you just look at them and go, like, these guys have so many things going on. They could make so many excuses, but they do it because they love it, but they still put in the hard yards.
Did the All Ireland in 2011? I meant to ask this earlier. Just winning that, did that change your perspective on goals and chasing goals versus, like, I'm just thinking of the process. I think Jim Gavin is well known for that. Obviously, Pat went through that process himself with the team and changed that Dublin team. Like, did that change your perspective of process versus achieving a goal and getting to the destination?
Yeah, like it did because you actually achieve it. Like up until that point in my life, I don't think I achieved anything that I felt was what I wanted to do. So like sometimes just getting to the top of the mountain is the hard part. And then you look at everything else, you kind of go, oh, now I can do that. It just gives you a bit of confidence in taking on new challenges. Um, and that's what I kind of got out of it was like, yes, I remember we looked at it back then in old money GAA was like the 6 games, the three provincial, and then three for the All Ireland series. So like if you look at the different camps on the route to Everest, there's six different campsites that you go to, and we kind of mapped it out on that journey. So like there is a process that you have to follow, and that has definitely helped me in other areas of my life. But I think the biggest thing that I got from it was just the confidence to take on more challenges.
I only watched back actually the Six Steps to Sam DVD from 2011. I said like it's someone actually. I had the DVD here, but someone had to put it on YouTube. Thank God, because I don't have a DVD player anymore. But it's just like it was interesting watching and seeing the process happen in terms of that group. Again in the off the ball interview you mentioned about beyond 2012 and Pat stepped away, Jim Gavin took over, and I think your quote was not being 100% committed to Dublin. I got dropped twice as a result. Just talk us through
Yeah,
that.
I got dropped in 2006 from Dublin because Pillar was the manager. He had brought so many of us on from the 21s, and there was a natural call that like at one stage there was eight midfielders. So like Darren Holman, Wheelo, Shane Ryan, Darren McGee, Declan. There was like so many midfielders. So I naturally like I got cut as did a lot of lads in 2006, which like brought me to tears. That I just went. I was so close to achieving my dream, and now it's just gone. Paul Clark was amazing for me. Paul kept giving me the gym programs and was working me on the side to get me back there. And thankfully, I did get back there. And I was the only one out of that group of players that got dropped that did get back into the Dublin team. But then when Jim came on board, like 2012 was arguably my best year with Dublin. It was the like I'd started the games, had a good run, had a reasonably good game in the All Ireland semi final against Mayo, and I was really happy with how that year went. Now I had a bad club championship, but one of the first things that Jim did when he got the job was drop me. So he dropped me before he started making cuts. I was um, I was a radio presenter, DJ. I had online business and a few other things. So not conducive to like Jim's mantra of like it's all about Dublin GA, but I was running a charity event with Deck Pierce from Blackrock Beats and Jeremy Dixon, who was with FM 104. It was going to be Dubs against DJs. We are going to play in Tallaght Stadium, a soccer match where the Dubs were playing against radio DJs. And I found out that Jim got the job, and one of my first phone calls to Jim was just to say, "Oh, look, we've been working on this on the side. Um, just letting you know, like, is it okay to still go ahead?" He didn't say yes, he didn't say no, but it was the shortest conversation I've ever had with someone. I remember coming off the phone going, "That's not good." And then, like 2 days later, Jim phoned me, just dropped me, and I remember going, "Oh shit, this is like, was it because of that phone call?" And then I put the message into the WhatsApp group, the lad saying, "I'm after getting the P45. Has anyone else got the chop?" No one else got the chop. So Jim just obviously didn't like what I was doing off the pitch, or didn't like me, whatever, right? Can't argue with the man. Go on, like what he's achieved with Dublin GA, right? It was like Dublin's greatest manager ever and the greatest manager in GA. So like I can't challenge anything, right? But I was obviously pissed off, like that I didn't get a chance, and I think that was a kick in the arse for me in terms of all the stuff that I was doing. That I actually did need to find something that was going to be more of a 9 to 5 for me and not have multiple things going on. I think that was the catalyst for me really getting into working within FMCG with various different companies. That's probably what triggered that. But it was also a bit of aggression towards proving that I'm worthy of a shot here. And then we went on that amazing run with Vincent's that year and won the All Ireland Club All Ireland. So then, like, you kind of take the time to reflect and go, right, he dropped me off the panel, but it gave me that kick in the arse that I probably needed to fulfill what I thought I was going to fulfill in Vincent's. So the story ends with, after we won the All Ireland, I tore my hamstring in the final, and Jim came to. In fairness to Jim, he came to the clubhouse after the All Ireland, met my mum and dad, was talking to me, and was asking about the hamstring. I was kind of called up for a training game. I just couldn't get back. Like, I was out for 6 weeks with it, and then just never got back in the Dublin fold. So like, you kind of take it with a negative spin at the time, but it gave me a bit of anger and a bit of aggression that I probably needed to kick on with St Vincent's.
Mm. Did you find it hard in 13 watching them win the All Ireland?
Yeah, like honestly, yeah, I did. Yeah, it was, to be honest, it was a weird set of emotions because love the lads, like they're all my mates. You know, we went to Portugal this year because it's 15 years since we won the All Ireland in 2011, and you just fall into old habits, like, and it's like you're never away from the lads, and you haven't met them in like 3, 4, 5 years, whatever it might be. They're like, when you go on that journey with a bunch of lads the way we did, you're just so fond of them. And I have so many great friends through that process. So I want them to do well. But then at the same time, you're like you want to be involved, you think you can make a change, and then you're like cursing Jim, like you're nearly going, "Oh, if Dublin lose, then Jim might be gone." Then you have all these kind of weird emotions in your head of how you should feel on the day. But I remember looking at it going, yeah, that was tough, delight for the lads. And then I was DJing, and the team came in to, not that night now, I think it was 2 nights after or something. They came into D2 where I was DJ, and it's like, oh, this is so cool that like they were still there for the celebrations and involving me in it. But it was hard.
Mm. I think that's just the competitor piece in you was coming out of, you want to be there and you want to be part of it. And you had tasted that success as well. So you knew what you were missing, in that sense of the celebrations and everything.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that kind of, like, they were my, like, when you're in that bubble with Dublin, that's it. Like, you're working, you're still talking, like everything you're doing is like around Dublin GA. So like your whole diary becomes around Dublin GA. Every conversation you have with people is nearly around Dublin GA. And when that bubble gets burst and you no longer have the same connection with the lads, that was the real challenge. Where it's like, I'm not talking to my mates anymore. Like, I used to spend so much time with these lads, and now I'm just they're gone, and that really, like, I did struggle with that piece. Like, thankfully, great bunch of lads at St Vincent that kind of you get back around the mix with them, and you can still have like the same passion and goal and fun with them as I was with the Dublin. But I did miss that. I found that a hard adjustment to make. Um, but like I'm yeah, I still think at that time I could have offered a bit to the team. It's just hard to hard to say how much given the success that they did have. Like,
One of the things that struck me though was your dedication to getting back and getting yourself in shape. I know you then went on to triathlons and stuff, but Martina, you hired her as your strength and conditioning coach, and you got probably was it during that club run you got the fittest you've ever been?
yeah, like, and this is sometimes you need to be challenged, and I don't think you appreciate how much until you are challenged. And that was one of the biggest challenges that I've ever had. Was like, right, now I'm dealing with a manager who just doesn't like me. It's not a case of ability because I never got the chance to show him. Right, I was dropped before everyone else was dropped, and I never got a chance to kind of prove myself in a training game or a match or even just being around the environment. So to get back on the Dublin team was always going to be a huge, huge challenge, and I had to make sure that I was doing everything to like what every metric that they were getting tested on. I needed to outperform not only the midfielders but the highest people on the team, and I needed that information to then go back to gym. So Martina was up in DCU. The lads were training up in DCU. Martina, I think at the time was like involved in conversations around the strength conditioning of the lads, or knew what was going on anyway. And then I still had players telling me about like the bleed test they were doing, the bankslow test they were doing, the vertical jumps, all that kind of stuff. So then I was like, right, now we need to build a plan. So I worked with Martina, and my training partners were Derval O'Rourke, who is amazing, Elise McSweeney, who is Brian Cullen's wife, Fiona Britton, or Fionnuala Britton, sorry, Fionnuala Britton. And like, look at Fionnuala and
Like
look at Derval,
legends.
like legends of the game, right? And like at a time where you think Dublin's changing to like box to box midfielders, and I was under Pat told to be bigger and hit lads. So it's a different kind of model of what Jim wanted from their midfielders. But who better to do that than be training with Derval O'Rourke, be training with Elise, to be training with Fionnuala, like a hurdler, sprinter, and long distance runner. And like I remember I was humbled so much when Martina brought me in to do a strength and conditioning session with them. I was just profusely sweating everywhere because I couldn't do half the stuff that they were doing. They were so dedicated, they were so disciplined, and they were so competitive to an extent. I was just like, oh my God, like this is deadly, right? I'm training with these legends. They're like pushing me harder than I've ever been pushed in the gym before. I'm working with one of the best strength and conditioning coaches that's ever been involved in Ireland athletics, not only WGA but athletics as a whole. And it was just such a cool time to be training with them. But fundamentally, I had a goal, right? But that year, I probably got to a point where I remember looking at the stats, and Mick was the only one who beat me in a bangs bout. He had Paddy something, I forget his name now, from Nafina, who Tyrone lad who was playing midfield as well, that was pretty fit as well. But I managed, my times were better to his. And Mickey was still working with the background team. So Mickey was feeding to Jim all the work that I was doing and the results that I was getting. But fundamentally, it came down to personality. So like if you were looking at the stats and how I was playing at the time, I think I did enough to warrant the call up. But like if you have a personality clash, you have a personality clash, and I could just never overcome that.
I didn't know you trained with the three. Like what three? Like
Yeah.
Fionnuala's still going. Like what? Like what a
Fanula,
legend.
Fanula. bought a separate gym mat for me because I was that sweaty in all of our sessions. So, like, she just like I can't handle like because we would the way Martina would set up the gym program was we would recycle like she'd move to one, I'd move to one, and then she's like, I just need you to start bringing your own mats. You're you're too sweaty, uh, and it was so cool. And then there like looking back, right, Derville released a cookbook, and I ended up having a recipe on it. Myself and Derville pitched the show to News Talk about a radio show because she was thinking about life after athletics as well. And it was me being a male coming from a team sport from Dublin with a female coming from an individual sport in Cork. Like we crossed loads of demographics. And fundamentally off the ball, ended up picking Brian O'Driscoll, and all the budget went. So our show never got picked up, but we did do a pilot with Annalise Murphy and Collie Moore. But I had so much fun training with them, and Elise is obviously like Brian's wife, so I've met her throughout the years and seeing what she's done with different things and her own professional career and her career within Pep Talk, a solicitor working for um, oh my God, what's that running company called? And Mick was CEO of.
Oh,
Anyway,
Sanctuary Runners.
Sanctuary Runners, yeah, she's amazing. And then looking at Fennell is still
Still
clocking
competing.
in. It's like 260 in marathons going, oh my God, who's doing that? Like, yeah, it was cool to be able to have that experience with them as well.
Yeah. Well, I had a number of different questions to kind of wrap it, but like I think they all kind of come into one. And what's one of my most common questions is, what's your definition of success, Eamon? Is there something that comes to mind from on and off the pitch?
But like my definition of success, it's probably not going to be the answer you want, right? Because it's about the I'm not like this isn't a sporting context by any means, but I think my definition of success is like how you make people feel and the relationships that you had when you go on that journey with someone. But let me give you an example. Like myself, Ross, and Mick had the bar together, and we had to run that bar during COVID. Um, Three of us were working full time, had the bar part time. And there's obviously points within that become strenuous, like where I'm there some weekends, Mick's not, Ross might be there when he has a big booking in, Mick's there Monday, Tuesday, whatever it might be. It's hard to run a bar, like really hard. The barometer for success was always about us having good relationships with each other at the end of it, regardless if we made money or whatever, how successful the bar was. It was always going to be about like our relationships were stronger and better because of it. And I can honestly say that's the case. It's the same with the coffee shop with Nathan Mullins. Like we won best coffee shop in Dublin through the 98 FM awards. All that stuff is the nice to haves. Maintaining the relationship with Nathan and his dad Brian, whereas like that's the fundamental for success in my eyes. That's what I deem as it's successful. We've enjoyed it. We've had a lot of fun. It did well, but we're still mates at the end of it. I think for me, success is about how you make people feel and how you work with them after.
It's, you said it, I maybe something I wouldn't be surprised by, but that's what every episode comes back to. It's about the relationships and the people. It's not necessarily the medals and the achievements off the pitch. It's the people around you.
Oh well, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
No,
it's interesting.
I do believe that that's the case, and like I've been very fortunate to have amazing people around me. So like I'm always grateful just to kind of reflect. And I just want to say to you, thank you for this opportunity because I don't think we spend enough time reflecting on ourselves. And when you sent over the questions, I was thinking about them, going, oh yeah, like haven't really delved into that so much, and you kind of start thinking and talking a bit more about it, and you go, that was actually a huge part of my life, or that's how that all stemmed, and I hadn't had the time in a long time to reflect to this level. So I want to thank you just for this opportunity. It's been so cool.
Well, don't thank me yet because we still have to do the sideline seven.
No,
So
sorry, sorry, sorry. Yeah, yeah.
I'm only joking. I'm only joking. No, but we could keep going. But like I've learned a lot from this. But it's really interesting. Again, just different perspectives that people bring. Sideline seven, same seven questions at the end of every episode. We got very philosophical there, so I'm interested to hear your favorite quote, Eamon.
I actually, do you know, like that kind of ebbs and flows with me, if I'm being honest. Like I have a lot of quotes that at different points in time that I kind of cling to, but I'm just such a fan of Eileen Gu. She's a rock star. Do you know Eileen? She's
No,
the, uh, please spend some time going down a rabbit hole of watching her videos. She's the most decorated free skier in the Olympics. And her quote is, train as if you never won and compete as if you've never lost. And that's, I think, a lovely way to be is like you have to still have that hunger, you still have to have that discipline. And like when you get to the top, you kind of think you can have it all. But I've seen it now going back coaching that it's literally just about hunger and work. Right? If you have them in spades, your life will be a lot easier. But yeah, check out Eileen Gu. She's an absolute rock star.
okay, I have to look at her up. Question two, Eamon. Best sporting event you've been to? Pick one as a fan and one as a player.
Players, the All Ireland, right? Going, like I'm going to say the one I played, like I was a sub, so like I got to see it for a bit and then playing it, but that would be the one I think as a fan. Yeah, one of the things that I think it was Mossy Quinn had said to me is like you need to see everyone play in their prime. So Ronaldo, Messi, I was lucky enough to see them, but I love Kobe Bryant, and I got to see Kobe play in the old Staples Center is now called Crypto, but Kobe came back from injury in his last season, and I was there for the game. I was so,
Amazing.
yeah, I was
That
dead.
is, oh, that's unreal. I'm very jealous of that. That's class. Out
Yeah,
of interest, actually, 2011, I was there at Davin stand. I'll never forget the ground shaking when Kev Mack scored that goal. When you were watching that match, did you like when you were going on? Were you like, what was your mindset? Were you just because you had watched it? It was different to everyone that started the game and was in it.
yeah. Like I remember talking to Pat before I was going on. He was just like, "We just need to win primary possession, and we need to kick on here. So just get your hands on the ball, do the right things." Sorry, he said, "Just get your hands on the ball and do the simple things." And Pat had a lovely way of like preparing us going into that game. It was just about you've played football since the age of 5. This is just another game. Block out all the noise, and that's what you're trying to do. It's hard when like the emotions are running high, but that's what Pat did to me. Just going onto the pitch was just about like getting calm, not letting the emotions get the better of you. But then when Kev scores the goal and Coco kicks the point, it's hard to kind of like rein it in a bit, but we managed it.
Yeah, yeah. Question three: biggest setback or challenge so far in your career, and how did you react to it?
I think the biggest challenge that I had was, as I probably stated already, was getting dropped in 2013 by Jim. I think I reacted in the best possible way. Like I have no regrets with how I reacted. Like I changed so much that had like a resounding impact on my career away from football, but also my career in football, winning the All Ireland with Vincent. And we spoke about like hiring Martina and working with Deirbhe Ladish and Fanula. So yeah,
Brilliant. To the flip side, biggest achievement in or outside of sport?
like my I have three amazing young kids who are fit and healthy, and I'm now loving this part of my life where myself and my wife can now get involved with like their sports and their activities.
Question five: advice to your 18-year-old self.
Ooh, um, 18-year-old. I would say just trust that the people who are telling you like I'm trying. I said that now. I was like, I better stop myself now. Like I probably was listening to the wrong people and not the people that I should have been listening to. So I think I'd just be a bit more patient with what people uh, wanted as the best for me, and that was the best for them.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Question six: dream dinner guest and why?
if you knew anything about me, you'd know. Sorry, Kylie Minogue is my number one person in the world. I think she's no, sorry, I shouldn't say number one person in the world. Like, I'm a big fan of Kylie. I have a wife, she's gonna kill me. But like Kylie, I'm a big fan girl of Kylie. Like we've gone to see her play the Kylie Christmas in London. We've gone to all of her gigs. I went to EP. I caught a rose that she threw into the crowd at EP. I'm in awe of Kylie and her career. If you watch the documentary, you'll see why. She's just amazing. She's like, as I spoke with earlier on, you have to enjoy it. You have to love what you do, and you have to work hard. And she epitomizes all them things for me.
Okay, she wasn't my first or my second guess.
Yeah, I'm a big Kylie fan.
Okay, I'll have to check out the documentary. Eamon, if your life was a book, what chapter would this be called?
I'd say pay it forward. Like I'm now at a stage like when I'm back coaching the lads, and that's just because I have to get back to the club and I have to get back to GA because it's been so good to me. And then myself and Nathan are able to start doing more stuff with the community now that we've a bit more stability with the coffee shop, and then like coaching the kids stuff and doing the stuff for the kids. So it's like pay it forward now.
Brilliant. What a way to wrap it. Eamon Fennell, thanks a million for your time.
All right, thank you so much.
And that is it for today's episode of the Sideline Live podcast. A huge thank you to our guest for sharing their story, insights and experiences with you, the audience. If you did enjoy the episode, please do leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, as it does help the show grow. If you are interested in more content and information or hearing from upcoming guests, you can follow our social medias at The Sideline Live, which are linked in the description box of the episode. If you do have any guest suggestions or topics you would like to have covered, you can send us a message on social media or email thesidelinelive@gmail.com. Thank you for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one.